Hi, I'm Fred Hoekstra. I'm from New Zealand. I live in New Zealand. I actually originally from the Netherlands, and so I have a little bit of understanding what is going on in the Netherlands and Europe regarding farmers over there. And even though I haven't lived there for 30 odd years, some of my friends are still over there. And so, as you know, they had a lot of those demonstrations there a year or a couple of years back. And just to give you a little bit of an insight what that was about, it was the government, or in the Netherlands, they have a lot of those natural reserves. Yeah, small little blocks of land where they're trying to keep it as natural as they possibly can. And they are blaming the farmers for polluting the air with nitrogen. And with that nitrogen, they are basically believing that some of the plants, they are growing too fast in those areas, and there are other plants that are they shouldn't be growing there, but they are growing as well. And of course, that is a massive issue for them that they need to solve. And as a consequence, what they are saying is that farmers, they need to reduce their nitrogen output. So the closer the farmer is living to one of those reserves, the more of the nitrogen they have to reduce. And some of it is the ones right next to it, they would have to reduce it down to 90%. So that is a massive amount of nitrogen less. The biggest deal with that is that the only way that farmers are allowed to reduce nitrogen output is by reducing their stock. So that means if you have a farmer that is milking, for instance, 100 cows, which is a reasonable farm in the Netherlands, probably an average farm, they would have to reduce their stock down to 10 cows in order to reduce the nitrogen. Yeah. And they were not allowed to use any technology to combat that. So that means that if they have a barn that can hold 100 cows, they now have to pay the mortgage and having an income with 10 cows. So that's definitely not possible. Yeah. And that is where a lot of those demonstrations were about, is that the government, they were just basically killing off the farmers. Now, the fact that they are saying that it has to be by reducing stock, and they are not looking at any other ways of doing it, shows that there must be a hidden agenda behind it, because if you want to solve the problem, you look at all the different options available to you to reduce it. So, so this is a couple of years ago now, when that all fell apart, and since that time, the government actually fell apart. And in that time, there was also another party that started up, and they're calling it the Farmers' Party, and it grew from not being around to being the biggest party within a very short time. Which in itself is actually quite a danger as well, because you need to grow in your role. If you grow too quickly, then, and it has happened with other parties, that they just they haven't got the experience to do so. So fortunately, they did shrink a little bit, but they are part of the government in the Netherlands now. But the Netherlands also just had a new election, and things seem to take a long time in the Netherlands, where the government took forever to form. And you may have heard of Geert Wilders, who is now in the government there, but I'm not entirely sure how that works, because he's the only person in his party who is actually governing, together with a number of other parties. But I was talking to my mum this morning, and she was telling me that there is a lot of infighting from the very first day already, and it seems to be shambles. So what that is, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of smaller parties, and they all want to have their say, and nobody seems to agree with anybody else but themselves. And so I think in some way the advantage of that is that for farmers, things are a little bit on the back burner. So it gives them a little bit of time to work things out, maybe.
Yeah.
But I think it's inevitable that it'll come back, because there is that underlying agenda where they want to do something about farmers, really, which is it's all good until people get hungry, and then they become a different beast. So that's a little bit about where things are at in the Netherlands. Here in New Zealand, we do have a new government as well, and with our new government, so they are the National Party compared to what we had with the Labour Party and the Greens, and they are very left. Whereas the National Party has gone left as well compared to what they used to be, but they are much more reasonable. They are making a lot of changes. Our Prime Minister, he is a confessing Christian, and I was talking to a guy from Tier Fund who knows our Prime Minister personally, and he is confirming that he's a Christian, even though we don't always notice that when he's talking on the news, but that's always a good thing. And then we so he has made a lot of changes already. You can see that they don't care too much about what the public says, what they think. They just go and do what they think is the right thing to do, which in many ways I think is good. I appreciate that. So farmers are doing it reasonably tough in New Zealand, and a lot of that has to do with the inflation. The milk price, for instance, is really good, but the cost is equally big. So therefore, the margins are very small, and that makes it really tough for farmers. Even the crop farmers. I was talking to a crop farmer on Monday, and they were saying that they don't know yet what to grow because nothing makes them money. So it's tough for them as well. And like fishes that Dennis is, he would be in that boat as well. So it's just a reflection, I think, of what is happening in the world, and we just need the Lord to intervene, and just ultimately it feels a little bit like in where it talks about in Jeremiah, where the evil is flooding into the world, and it feels a little bit like the world is flooded by evil in our time as well. But ultimately, God is God, and He is sovereign, and He is in control, and ultimately we need to rely on Him because we have no other hope. And
Fred, Janet and I have been blessed by the Gideons we've met from Cape Reinga to the north to Invercargill to the south, and you were one of the first Gideons we met at Field Days, and you helped us many times get show supplies from one island to the other. And then tell us a little bit about Gideons in New Zealand, what ministry opportunities you have.
So we are actually organizing a conference in Medfin in a couple of months' time. That's the national conference, and that'll be a very exciting time. But in New Zealand, the Gideons are probably struggling the same as any other organization, where schools and motels and those people, they more and more of them, they don't want the Gideons to come to hand out Bibles. And so from that perspective, that goes in line with everything else that is happening. The interesting thing is that when it comes to sharing or evangelizing, it's never been, in New Zealand at least, it's never been an as hard a time to evangelize, because there are more and more people turning away from the Bible and from the Lord, and actively fighting against it. But at the same time, it has never been a better time to evangelize. And it sounds a little bit strange maybe, but there are lots of people that never heard of Jesus and never heard of the gospel. And according to the statistics, 1 in 4 of people are actually quite open to hearing the gospel. So that doesn't mean that they will accept it, but they are open to listening to it. So that is quite a lot of people that we can evangelize to, really. And so when it comes to the Gideons, we just keep doing it. Even though it gets harder and harder, we just have to be a little bit more creative in how we go about it. So if schools reject us from going to hand out the Bibles there, what some camps do is they go onto the sidewalks and they just hand out Bibles just outside the school gate. So that is one way of doing it. What we have done with our college here in Ashburton, they have once a year, in the start of the year, they have an orientation day, and we are allowed to just have a stand there where we can hand out Bibles. So basically, they have lots of different things that the students can enroll in for that year, and then we can be there and hand it out. And to be honest, we've never handed as many Bibles out as what we do in that way. So sometimes when things are being made hard, it actually can be a blessing in disguise as well. And that is what we have experienced.
Well, Fred, maybe it would be something we could pray about is next June having a significant exhibit at the National Field Days with Gideons and Fellowship of Christian Farmers, and maybe even some of our friends in Canada would come, because there's a strong tie, New Zealand with Canada, especially Western Canada.
Yeah,
it'd be fun to give it a go. I mean, you put prayer in action and just see, like you're saying, it's worked out better than you've ever thought there at the college. So maybe it is time to reconsider doing this.
Oh, definitely. And you know, like in that situation, we actually had opportunities to have talks to the students, whereas normally when you go into the school, you hand out a Bible, you say a few words beforehand, but it's very monologue. Whereas in that way, you can make a dialogue, and yeah, I mean, it's much more effective from that perspective. Yeah.
Well, I'm pleased that you've taken time from your business, VHoff Dairy Services, and just appreciate you sharing with us, and pray for you and Sandy and your family and all you're doing in your local churches, and let's keep praying for each other, especially with the farmers in Holland and Netherlands and our farmer friends across New Zealand. So let me know what you think about the idea of, you know, we've been to many farm shows. We have relationships with the South Island Agricultural Field Days, and the one down at what's the one down at
Waimumu.
Waimumu, right? Waimumu.
Yes.
And they talk so fast and they don't move their lips. I got to get them to slow down so I can understand them. And it'll be thrilling to go back there, and that show is growing. The facilities have been growing from one year to the next. They play a rugby match there every time they have the show. So it's very encouraging that despite all this evil in the world, the Lord can bless us to move forward, and he'll show us how to do this. So thanks so much, Fred.
You're welcome. Thank you. And God bless to you all, and what you are doing. It's fantastic as well. And ultimately, if we obey the Lord, then that's all we can do, right?
Amen.
That's right.
Well, praise the Lord, and we'll be in touch.
So